You know the feeling. You arrive at the spot, make that first perfect cast, and bam, fish on. You land it, cast again, bam, another one. For 15 glorious minutes, it's non-stop action. You're thinking you found the honey hole of a lifetime. And then, nothing. Silence. It's like someone reached down and flipped a switch, turning the bite completely off. What if I told you the person who flipped that switch was you? Today, we are dissecting the 15-minute curse, that agonizing moment every angler dreads when a hotspot goes ice cold for no apparent reason. And I promise you, I'm not going to feed you the same old lines about the fish just moved on. I'm going to show you the exact chain of events that you unknowingly trigger, turning your personal paradise into a dead zone. The answer has less to do with your bait and more to do with your boots. Think it's just bad luck? Let me know in the comments right now if you believe in the 15-minute curse, because I'm about to prove it's very, very real. This experience is universal. It doesn't matter if you're a bank fisherman on a quiet pond, an ice angler in a shanty, or even someone who just anchored their boat over a promising piece of structure. The pattern is always the same: a flurry of activity, followed by a sudden and complete shutdown. For generations we've relied on old-timer wisdom to explain it. We say things like, "Oh, a school just passed through," or "the barometric pressure must have changed." We blame everything but ourselves. It's easier that way. This is because we, as fishermen, are creatures of habit. We have a routine that we follow almost unconsciously. We drive to the spot, slam the car door, stomp down to the water's edge, drop our heavy tackle box with a thud, and start rigging up. We do these things year after year, because that's how we've always done it. We're focused on the lure, the rod, the line, but we completely ignore the biggest factor in the equation: our own massive, clumsy presence in a world that is not our own. Today we're breaking that habit. Let's start with what's happening in those first few minutes. That initial flurry of bites isn't the entire population of the lake deciding to eat at once. You are catching what I call the scout fish. These are the most aggressive, the boldest, and frankly, the dumbest fish in the immediate area. They are the ones with less caution, driven by instinct and hunger. Think of a school of perch or crappie. There are always a few individuals that are more willing to take a risk. When your lure first hits the water, it's a new and intriguing thing. These scouts rush in to investigate and strike. The problem is, their panicked, frantic fight is the first domino to fall. Imagine you're at a quiet library and someone suddenly starts screaming and trashing the place. You wouldn't stick around to see what happens next. That caught fish is sending out massive distress signals, both through vibration and visual chaos, telling every other fish nearby that something is very, very wrong. You are essentially catching the town crier, and his last message is a warning to everyone else. Now, let's talk about the very first thing you do. You walk to your spot. This is where the damage begins. You need to understand that fish experience the world primarily through vibration. Their lateral line is an incredibly sensitive organ that picks up the tiniest pressure changes in the water. To them, your heavy footsteps on the bank are not just footsteps. They are seismic events. Imagine you are in a small room and a giant starts pounding on the ceiling. That is what you are doing to the fish. Every single step you take, especially on hard or rocky ground, sends low-frequency vibrations directly through the earth and into the water. The fish feel this long before they ever see your lure. They might not bolt immediately, but their internal alarm system is now on high alert. They've gone from a relaxed state to a fight or flight readiness. This is even more pronounced in ice fishing, where the ice acts like a massive drumhead, amplifying every single step into a deafening boom for the fish below. You're scaring them before you even wet a line. Okay, so you've reached your spot, sending shock waves with every step. What's next? You set down your gear. This moment is what I call the tackle box disaster zone. Most anglers just drop their heavy plastic tackle box on the ground with a loud thud. That's another earthquake for the fish. Then they flip the loud plastic or metal latches. Click, clack. Each sound is sharp, unnatural, and alarming. Then the rummaging begins. You dig through trays of lures, letting them clang and rattle against each other. You pull out pliers and they scrape against the plastic. To you, it's just the sound of getting ready. To the fish, it's like a construction site just opened up right on top of their home. Think about how quiet it usually is in their underwater world. The primary sounds are the gentle lapping of water or the subtle noises of other aquatic life. Your noisy setup routine is a violent intrusion into their reality. It's the equivalent of a loud metallic symphony of danger, and it's another major signal for any wary fish to either hunker down or move away entirely. Now that you've created a sonic disturbance, let's add a visual one. We need to talk about your shadow, or more accurately, your silhouette. Fish, especially those in shallower water, are prey animals. They are hardwired by millions of years of evolution to be terrified of threats from above. What is their number one aerial predator? Birds, herons, ospreys, eagles. These birds create a large dark shadow on the water's surface just before they strike. Now, think about what you do. You stand up, tall and imposing, right at the water's edge, silhouetted against the bright sky. You have just become the biggest, scariest predator bird they have ever seen. Your shadow falling across the water is a universal sign of death from above. The fish don't see a friendly angler, they see a massive dark shape that signals immediate danger. This is why you'll often see fish scatter in the shallows as you approach. They aren't running from you, they're running from your shadow. By standing, you are casting that predator signal far out into your fishing spot. So you've finally cast your line and you're sitting down. The initial damage is done, but it doesn't stop there. Now comes the phase I call the necessary readjustment. You've been sitting for 5 minutes, and you're not quite comfortable. You shift your weight on your chair or bucket. It makes a scraping or grinding noise on the gravel or dirt. Another vibration spike. You reach into your bag for a drink or a snack. The rustling of the bag, the unscrewing of the thermos cap. More sharp, unnatural sounds. Maybe you get a little cold and stand up to put on a jacket. This creates that giant, terrifying overhead shadow all over again. These are all seemingly innocent actions, but they are cumulative. Each little noise, each subtle vibration, each fleeting shadow adds another drop of danger into the water. The fish that weren't scared off by your initial arrival are now being subjected to a slow drip of anxiety-inducing stimuli. They won't feed confidently when they feel like they are in a constantly shifting, unpredictable, and threatening environment. Let's move from the physical to the chemical. We have to talk about scent contamination, and it's about a lot more than just the bait on your hook. The human world is full of powerful, artificial scents that are completely alien and alarming to fish. Think about your morning routine before you even left the house. Did you handle gasoline at the pump? That residue is on your hands. Did you put on bug spray or sunscreen at the water's edge? Those chemicals are now all over your fingers. Are you a smoker? That nicotine and tar are potent contaminants. When you touch your lure, your line, or your bait, you are transferring a chemical signature into the water that screams unnatural. A fish's sense of smell is thousands of times more sensitive than ours. They can detect these foreign chemicals in parts per million. To them, a lure tainted with DEET or gasoline doesn't smell like food. It smells like poison. You could have the most realistic looking lure in the world, but if it has a scent halo of bug spray around it, most fish won't go near it. Here is a more subtle concept: the bait cloud deception. This applies especially if you're using chum, scent-infused soft plastics, or dough baits. When you first start fishing, you introduce a concentrated cloud of attractive scent into the water. This is a powerful dinner bell that pulls in those aggressive scout fish we talked about earlier. They rush in, and you catch a few. But here's the catch. That initial potent scent cloud quickly begins to dissipate. The current carries it away, and it thins out. Meanwhile, the fish that were caught have been removed, and the ones that were spooked have fled. You are now left with a much weaker scent trail and a population of much warier fish. These smarter fish become suspicious. They first detected a strong signal that meant an easy meal, but now that signal is weak and is associated with the splashing and chaos of their friends being caught. Your bait is now an isolated offering in a danger zone, not an irresistible buffet. The deception is over. Let's analyze the simple act of casting. We almost never think about it, but the pressure wave of your cast is a significant event. A half-ounce sinker or a heavy-based jig landing in the water, especially in a shallow or calm area, does not land gently. It makes a loud plop and creates a substantial pressure wave that radiates outwards, just like the ripples you see on the surface. For fish, this is a sudden, jarring intrusion. The very first cast might trigger a curiosity response from aggressive fish who think something has fallen into the water to eat. But think about what happens next. You make another cast to the same spot, and another. Repetitive, loud plops in the exact same location quickly teach the remaining, warier fish a lesson. They learn to associate that specific sound and pressure wave with the sudden disappearance of their schoolmates. Your cast, which is meant to be a delivery system for your bait, becomes a warning siren that you are actively hunting in that precise area. This is one of the most important and most overlooked scientific factors, the caught fish's distress signal. We see a fish fighting and splashing on the surface, but something invisible and far more powerful is happening underwater. Many species of fish, especially bait fish, and social species like perch, crappie, and carp, release a chemical substance called Schreckstoff, which is German for scare stuff. This is an alarm pheromone. When the fish's skin is damaged, say, by the prick of a hook or the teeth of a predator, this chemical is released into the water. It is an unmistakable, potent signal to every other fish of the same species in the area that there is an active and deadly predator present. One hooked fish can release enough of this pheromone to clear out an entire school. They don't just get spooked and resettle, they often evacuate the area entirely. So that first fish you caught and celebrated, its final act was to release a chemical scream that told all of its friends to run for their lives. You might think this is a minor one, but let's talk about your voice. Sound travels 4.5 times faster through water than it does through air, and low-frequency sounds, like the bass in a human voice, travel particularly well. While a normal, quiet conversation might not penetrate the water's surface very much, louder noises absolutely can. Yelling to your buddy 50 yards down the bank, shouting in frustration after a missed strike, or even just laughing loudly can transmit vibrations through the ground and into the water. Think about it. When you shout, your chest vibrates. You are creating sound waves. These waves can easily travel down through your body, through the ground you're standing on, and into the water column. To the fish, this is yet another source of unnatural low-frequency vibration that signals the presence of a large, unpredictable creature nearby. In a world where survival depends on detecting threats, your voice is just another piece of evidence that they should be cautious. Now for a very subtle disturbance, the ripple effect of your fishing line. We focus so much on the lure at the end, we forget about the dozens of feet of line cutting through the water. This is especially true for braided lines, which are not smooth and can create a distinct vibration or hum as water flows past them, particularly in a current. It's like a guitar string. This constant, faint, unnatural vibration in the water column can be a major deterrent for finicky or heavily pressured fish. They may not know exactly what it is, but they know it's not normal. Monofilament and fluorocarbon lines are smoother and create less of a disturbance, but they still create a visible and physical presence. Imagine you're a wary old bass. You see a tasty-looking crawfish, but it appears to be tethered to a strange, vibrating string that leads up to the sky. Are you going to eat it? Probably not. Your line itself can be the reason a fish inspects your lure but ultimately turns away. Let's look at the behavior of an impatient angler, specifically the cycle of disturbance caused by changing lures. The bite has slowed, so what's the first thing most of us do? We assume the fish wants something different, so you reel in your line quickly. This creates a wake and more vibration. You lift your lure out of the water, then you open that noisy tackle box again, clink, clank. You snap off the old lure, snap on a new one, then you make another cast, creating another loud plop and pressure wave in the water. You have just repeated the entire sequence of disturbances that made the fish wary in the first place. If you're someone who changes lures every 5 or 10 minutes because you're not getting bites, you are in a constant state of re-spooking the fish. You're never giving the area a chance to calm down and for the fish to regain their confidence. You're essentially ringing the dinner bell and the fire alarm at the same time, over and over again, and wondering why no one is coming to eat. Let's focus specifically on the ice fishing environment, because on the ice, every single mistake is magnified tenfold. The solid ice sheet acts as a giant amplifier, transmitting sound and vibration with incredible efficiency. When you drill a hole with an auger, the noise and vibration are immense. It's the equivalent of setting off a small explosion in the fish's living room, but it doesn't stop there. Once you're set up, every little sound is broadcast downwards. Dropping your ice scoop on the ice sounds like a gunshot. Your footsteps as you walk around your hole create thunderous booms. Even just shuffling your feet inside your shanty sends vibrations directly into the water column below you. Fish under the ice are often more lethargic due to the cold water, but they are also trapped. They can't easily flee a large area, so instead they react to these constant, terrifying disturbances by shutting down completely. They hug the bottom and refuse to feed. On the ice, silence and deliberate, minimal movement are not just recommendations, they are absolute necessities. We need to discuss something I call the comfort trap. This happens about 10 to 15 minutes in, right when the initial bite is dying. You've made your casts, you've settled into your spot, and now your mind starts to wander. You get a little stiff, so you stand up to stretch, once again casting that massive predator-bird shadow across the water. You feel a bit hungry, so you get up and walk back to your car or truck to get a sandwich, sending those seismic footsteps all over again. These major movements are actually far worse than your initial arrival. Why? Because after your arrival, there might have been a brief period of relative quiet. Cautious fish may have been slowly venturing back out, thinking the danger had passed. Your sudden, large movement is a new, fresh wave of terror. It confirms their suspicions that a large, unpredictable threat is still in the area. You have effectively reset the spook timer to 0, and probably guaranteed another long period of inactivity. Getting too comfortable leads to careless movements that undo any quiet you've established. Let's revisit the visual aspect, but this time, let's talk about your clothing. Fish have surprisingly good vision, especially when it comes to detecting contrast and movement against the sky. When you wear bright, unnatural colors, a bright white t-shirt, a vibrant yellow rain jacket, a hunter's orange hat, you stick out like a sore thumb. From a fish's perspective, looking up from the water, you are a giant, colorful beacon against the backdrop of the sky or shoreline foliage. This makes you incredibly easy to spot. Predators in nature rely on camouflage to blend in. By wearing bright colors, you are doing the exact opposite. You are announcing your presence from 100 feet away. On a clear, sunny day, this effect is even more pronounced. You become a shimmering, moving block of color that is completely alien to their natural environment. The solution is simple. Wear drab, natural colors that blend in with your surroundings. Think olives, grays, browns, or camouflage. You want to disappear, not stand out. Here is a concept that many anglers underestimate. The social learning of fish. Fish are not mindless eating machines. Many species, especially those that live in schools like crappie, bass, and perch, are capable of learning from the experiences of others. When they see a member of their school suddenly get yanked violently towards the surface after attacking a certain object, they take notice. They learn to associate that specific lure, that specific color, or that specific area with extreme danger. They don't have to be hooked themselves to learn the lesson. This is why a hot lure can suddenly turn cold. After you've caught a few fish on a fire tiger colored crankbait, the rest of the school has learned that fire tiger crankbaits are a trap. The remaining fish will actively avoid it. This social learning is a powerful survival mechanism, and it's a major reason why the bite on a specific presentation will die off, forcing you to change, which then, as we've discussed, creates more disturbance. Let's tackle the most common excuse in the book: barometric pressure. Anglers love to blame a slow bite on a change in the weather. And to be fair, yes, significant long-term changes in barometric pressure absolutely affect fish feeding behavior. A steady falling pressure ahead of a storm often triggers an aggressive bite, while a high rising pressure after a front can shut them down. However, the 15-minute curse is almost never caused by this. A weather front moves in over a period of hours, not minutes. The pressure doesn't suddenly plummet in the 15 minutes you've been sitting there. Using barometric pressure as an excuse for a bite that dies suddenly is simply a crutch. It's an easy way to avoid taking responsibility for our own actions. The real pressure that is affecting the fish in that moment is not atmospheric. It's the physical and sensory pressure that you, the angler, are putting on their environment through noise, vibration, and visual threats. So, what is the grand conclusion here? It is the cumulative effect. It's not one single mistake that kills the bite. It is death by 1,000 cuts. Think of it like a cup being filled with water, drop by drop. Your heavy footsteps are the first few drops. Dropping your tackle box adds more. Your shadow adds a splash. The pheromones from the first caught fish nearly fill the cup. Each subsequent cast, each little readjustment in your seat adds another drop. Eventually, the cup overflows. That overflow point is the threshold where the remaining fish in the area have accumulated too much stress and negative stimuli. Their survival instinct finally overrides their feeding instinct, and they either shut down completely or leave the area. The 15-minute curse is simply the time it takes for the average angler to fill up that cup and cross the threshold. It's a predictable pattern of cumulative disturbance, and you are holding the faucet. Many anglers fall for what I call the reset button myth. They think that if the bite dies, they can just sit and wait it out for 30 minutes, and the fish will magically forget what happened and start biting again. For some very young, naive fish, this might be true. But for the larger, warier, and more desirable fish, that spot is now a registered danger zone. They have marked it in their memory. The combination of your shadow, the vibrations, and the alarm signals from other fish has taught them that this specific area is unsafe. They are not going to return and feed confidently anytime soon. It could take hours, or even until the next day, for them to feel secure there again. Any fish you might catch by waiting are likely to be new, transient fish, just passing through the area, not the original school you were targeting. You cannot simply wait out the fear that you have instilled. The damage for that fishing session is often already done. Finally, after all this doom and gloom, let's talk about the solution. The solution is to unlearn your old habits and adopt the art of stealth. You must transform your mindset from that of a casual hobbyist to that of a calculating predator. Predators in nature do not stomp and clang their way to a meal. They are silent, deliberate, and invisible. This is how you must approach the water. Walk slowly and softly. Place your gear down gently, as if it were made of glass. Stay low to the ground to minimize your silhouette. Wear colors that blend in. Make fewer, more deliberate casts instead of constantly peppering the water. Handle your gear with clean hands. When you hook a fish, land it as quickly and quietly as possible to minimize the distress signals. Think of a great blue heron hunting on the shoreline. It moves with a slow, patient grace that is almost imperceptible. That is your new role model. The goal is to become a part of the natural environment, not an intruder in it. So, there you have it. The 15-minute curse isn't a curse, a myth, or bad luck. It's a predictable outcome based on a series of actions. It's the sum of all the noise, vibration, chemical, and visual pressure that we as anglers dump into the water in those first crucial moments. We show up, catch the most aggressive and oblivious fish, and then our own clumsy presence systematically drives the smarter, warier majority away. The biggest aha moment, the real turning point, should be this. The fish don't just stop biting, we make them stop biting. This simple truth can completely change your entire approach to fishing. From this day forward, instead of obsessing over which color lure to tie on first, your primary focus should be on how you approach the water. Stealth isn't just a tactic for hunters in the woods, it is the single most important and overlooked skill for any serious angler. Thank you so much for watching. If this video opened your eyes, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe for more content that breaks down the why of fishing. not just the how. Now, I want to hear from you. Be honest with yourself and with everyone here. What's the number one mistake from this list that you now realize you've been making for years? Let's talk about it in the comments below.